Welcome back to the Legal Lead Shark podcast, where high growth law firms and the marketers who power them come to sharpen their edge. If you're obsessed with leads, conversions, and building law firms that dominate your market, you're in the right place. We go deep in the top minds of legal marketing, from agency owners to intake pros and PPC legends, uncovering the strategies, tools, and mindset that it takes to turn more clicks into signed cases. I'm your host, K'Lee Terrazas, and today I'm joined by Chelsea Williams, founder of Core Solution Group and the financial architect for scaling law firms. Chelsea helps law firm owners master their numbers with smart bookkeeping, trust compliance, and CFO level strategy that fuels real growth. She's also launching a powerful new course in October specifically designed for the $0 to $1 million law firm, breaking down everything that you need to know to get your financial systems right from day one. If you're not confident about your books, your trust account, or what your numbers actually are telling you, this episode is a wake-up call. Chelsea, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, I'm excited to be here and talk money.
Yes, we all love money. So I love they're actually the most viewed episodes on my podcast. No surprise.
Yes, yeah, we all love it. And that's rude. That's why we went into business for ourselves, at least to some degree, right? But a lot of people are so confused by it. So that's why I love talking about it. I try to make it simple.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, well, start us off. Tell us a little bit about who you are, where you're from, and then we'll dive into more money talk.
Yeah, so I am Chelsea Williams, founder of Core Solutions Group. I also have a podcast, Always and Never About Money, and a second business where I help people with personal finance in addition to business finance. I'm a Midwest girl. I was born and raised 2 hours south of Chicago. I think I'm ready to get out of here and try to live somewhere else next year. So that's the plan. But yeah, I call myself the chief financial architect because the money is a game. And in the game of money, you're either a player or a pawn. And there is no one equation for success. There is no one path to financial freedom. Everybody's version, everybody's financial picture, by the time I'm done helping them paint it, looks different. And I have a lot of fun doing what I do.
Yeah, I say the same thing with marketing. Google Ads is a game of chess, and it's either a money printing machine or a money burning pit. So the thing I love about talking with financial planners or bookkeepers or wealth management is the same thing marketing. Like, we have numbers. You should never be in the dark about any of this. There's numbers to show you exactly where you're at and where you want to go. One of the analogies I love to use, which is going to lead us perfectly into the first question, is I get a lot of customers or clients that'll come to me, law firms, whether they're solo practitioners or they're stuck in the messy middle scaling, and they tell me where they want to go. So I use the analogy, hey, you just said you want to go to New York City. So where are you now? And then they just kind of I don't know, so that's where people like Chelsea and I, me on the marketing side, Chelsea on your numbers side, that's where we come in to help you say, okay, we can get you to New York City, but we have to have a starting point. Where are you now? So Chelsea, let's talk about the biggest financial blind spots that you see firms under $1 million making. What's costing them the most and how can they fix it?
I really like talking about that. That's a good topic. And I want to at least say that numbers don't have to be a guessing game at all. In marketing, in finance, your numbers can be crystal clear. And the reason why a lot of law firms are operating in a financial fog is because of that fear to even come to the table and have that conversation with their numbers. And there's a lot of different reasons why, but in my opinion, is rooted in the fact that they have never been taught financial literacy. So this is their permission slip to say, hey, this is not a character flaw. The fact that you don't understand finance, it is not taught. It is not required in schools. My college degree did not cover it well enough, in my opinion. And so again, this is like your permission slip that it is not your fault. It's not that you're doing anything wrong. It's just a matter of learning the language of accounting. Warren Buffett famously said, accounting is the language of business. It truly is. But if you can learn law, the few accounting terms that you need to know are going to be so simple. And so once you can get past that fear and that avoidance and really give yourself a chance to get to know your numbers and how to understand them, it becomes really easy, and it is a wake-up call in a lot of instances, because the most common blind spots for law firms is reported almost every single year in the Clio Trends report. I've been following that report since 2017, and every single year it talks about how law firms are leaving money on the table. So this is not money that they're missing because they're not bringing in new clients. That's kind of hard, right? That's kind of difficult. This is money that is already knocking on their door. They're just not opening the door. And what that looks like is missing leads, not calling prospects, prospects back fast enough, not focusing on an important metric like your conversion rate and making sure that you're optimizing it, making sure that if you have employees or if you are the only employee, that you are maximizing your time to be spent on billable work, making sure that billable hours make it to an invoice and we're not discounting and justifying why, oh, I can't put that on the invoice. I can't put that on the invoice. Getting it on an invoice and then furthermore, collecting it. I can't tell you how many law firms I run into that they're making pretty decent money, but so much of their cash is caught up in unpaid invoices and they are not systematically following up with those invoices and taking getting paid seriously.
And there is so many things I want to hit on that you just said. So I'll start with, this is not taught to us. We actually, for many years, I've been a boutique agency. I'm not one of the big whales in the marketing agency, and I keep it like that on purpose. I like to be intimate with my clients. I like to know them. I like to, know who their family is, when their birthday is. Like, I value that. But the other thing that's allowed me to do is I homeschool my two boys. And I did that because I went all the way through, college, and everything I know about marketing and sales, I learned in the real world. I didn't learn any of it in college.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but I talk about this all the time. I can't imagine what they are teaching in a marketing degree right now that's going to be applicable in even 3 months, let alone at the
I
end of
know.
years. Like, it's insane.
I know. And I had my boys from age like 14 reading The Millionaire Weekend and like all of these, I forget what the other one was, Success Principles by Jack Canfield is one of my favorites. And people are like, this is curriculum for us. I don't care if you know the state's capitals or whatever, like they do know that. But you know what I'm saying? Like, what really matters is like, do you know money? And do you know the basic terms of money? Just like you and I would have a hard time reading a legal agreement, that's fine. That's why we trust lawyers to do that for us. But that's where they can lean on us and stop flying blind. And then the other thing that you said, actually, we were introduced by Frank Reckes, who I've had on the podcast twice now. We did the Rockefeller Method. So good. We did the Rockefeller Method in our first podcast episode. And the whole title, the thumbnail of that is why most law firms are paper rich and cash poor. And so, between you, a wealth management strategist like Frank, and then me knowing the marketing numbers, people undervalue, and I would say this is probably one of the biggest blind spots, not knowing your numbers. I just spoke with a business that we brought on yesterday who spent small ad spend, $50,000 in 2 years, and conservatively 40% of that's wasted because it was done wrong. And in that conversation with him, he said, I feel like we get this many calls. I feel like we're spending this much. And I frankly said to him, you should never feel anything with marketing. Like, we have data, you should say we get exactly this many calls. This is our close rate. This is our, so same thing with you in bookkeeping, whether you're small and you're trying to do it in-house to save money, that company literally just lost easily $25,000 by not hiring the right person the first time and saving on management fees. The other thing is, you've been talking to my husband, Jason, who does payroll and HR. We've seen companies leave and not filling out one form when they hired a military veteran. They left I think it was $11,000 that they could have had in a tax write-off, just right off the top. And I don't know if that's the exact number he could tell you, but it was a lot, substantial. And that's their second military vet they've hired that they've lost twice now because they didn't know that was even on the table for them. So
yeah, it pays to have experts on your side. It truly is an investment, and numbers are your compass. So, people ask the question a lot of, what's in your opinion, who do you think should be the first hire in a law firm? And of course I say this biasly, but I don't say this biasly. It should be a bookkeeper, and not just your spouse's sister that does it on the side. It should be a bookkeeper that understands trust accounting, because that can also get you in trouble. But knowing your numbers, your financial numbers, allows you to see how much you can invest in marketing, right? When you can afford to hire that next billable person, right? How much profit you can take out of the business, how much you need to set aside for taxes, how much you need to leave to reinvest.
Agree, 100%. Even as a marketer, I would say first thing you need is a financially savvy bookkeeper / fractional CFO on your side. Because the first thing you're going to tell them is, whoa, 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 whoa. You are really heavy on overhead. And if you don't spend on marketing, my favorite marketer, I've got his quote on my website, Daniel Priestley, wrote the book Oversubscribed and Key Person of Influence. He said, everything is downstream from lead generation. And if you don't have leads, you don't have a business. But how much of your money should go to that? I don't know. As a marketer, that's what your CFO is supposed to be telling you. What can you afford? I would say as much as you can afford should go to it. But there's a lot of times I've worked with fractional CFOs like you or bookkeepers that said, we need to move you out of downtown in your fancy office and move you to a more reasonably expensed office, and you need more of that money into acquiring new clients. And maybe later you go back, or maybe you don't. That's a lot of time that's an ego office is what I like to call it.
That part.
Yeah, so but I don't know that because again, I know your marketing numbers, but I have to work with your bookkeeper to know what does that look like for you? What is your lifetime value of that customer? So we can calculate the marketing numbers. So I 100% agree it should be someone who knows legal numbers should be the first hire at your firm.
Yeah, and I find that, fractional CFOs like me work really well with marketing professionals like you. When we partner, we're able to, like, one of the things I like to do when clients ask me that question of how much can I afford in marketing or how much should I be paying? So, first of all, don't ever fall for you should be spending this much on anything. Again, there is no cookie cutter answer to your money questions. I've seen it sliced and diced so many different ways. It really is pretty unique to you. And my two things I always say about marketing when my clients ask me about this is number one, have realistic expectations. You're not going to invest in a marketing strategy today and see leads come through the door this month, maybe not even next month. You need to give it 3 to 6 months. That's what you need to be asking if you can afford, not just that initial payment so that you can make it back. So setting realistic expectations for that. And then people will ask me, how much should I be spending on marketing? For some reason, 10% is a popular percentage. I don't know. In my opinion, if you're spending 10% and it's not yielding a return on your investment, stop spending that much. On the other hand, if you're spending 10% and it's giving you massive returns on your investment and you have a strong sales conversion rate and a team that has the capacity to take on more, by all means, turn up the faucet, spend 20.
Yeah, that's exactly when I get into a Google Ads account to do an audit. One of the first things I look at is how much have they been spending? And if let's just say it's 30K, right? A personal injury law firm spending 35,000 a month, but they've been spending that for 2 years. That tells me one of two things. Either one, they're on autopilot and they're not working with the right agency, because if it's a money printing machine for you, as it should be, after you train the machine, it should be that for you. And if it's not, then you should turn it off or you should figure out what the problem is. But if it is, why haven't you upped the budget? And a lot of times that's, oh, well, they just keep I don't know. They didn't tell me to. Working with the wrong person. You've got it, and the numbers don't lie. If we're making you ROI positive, that moment we hit green, we should be upping the budget, upping the strategy and doing different things. But yeah, I 100% agree. And I set really clear. I like to try to under promise and over deliver on marketing, because I could run a campaign in Miami and it just hits and they're printing money. I do the exact same one in Dallas and it flops and I have to go strategize, and go back to the table. So yeah, 100%. And one of the things you hit on was intake, which I have a plug on Intake EQ that I launched because that was the bottleneck / thorn in my side as I'm running ads for law firms and listening to their intake. I'm like, hard pause. Like, this has to be fixed. You're just literally, it's like fire hose shooting in a bucket full of holes is what we're doing right now.
Yeah, it's one of the things that law firms notoriously suck at. And I can say that because I come from the tax and accounting world and we have some of the same weaknesses. Like, as an industry, we suck at it too. So again, that's one of the things where your marketing can be uber successful, but if you don't have a sales and intake process that is equally as efficient and effective, it doesn't matter. None of it matters.
I saw Google put out, I think this was in 2023, the last stat I saw, that 60% of calls that go to the GBP, people's Google business profile. So they Google car accident or family law attorney or whatever, an immigration attorney, 60% of the calls for businesses go missed on the first attempt. And then I asked for a legal number, and roughly 28% of that in law is missed the first time. So I'm like, it doesn't matter how much you're spending if you're not answering the phone.
I just did a master class yesterday and I calculate scenarios for law firm owners about the money that they're leaving on the table. And I think I used something like, if you have an average case value of $3,500, and let's just say you're getting 50 leads a month, between the leads you're not answering, the clients you're not converting because your sales process isn't what it should be. By the end of I did like 3 different mathematical scenarios like that. And by the end of the calculation, if you total all of them together, it's almost $1 million. And this is completely subjective to your average case value and all the numbers are subjective. The point is, it adds up and it will shock you and throw you into action if you were to actually crunch your numbers on the amount of leads, conversions, conversions and you're not charging enoughs that are happening in your law firm.
Yep. And just like that client I mentioned earlier that wasted easily $25,000, they were kind of gasping when I said what my management fee is. And I was like, that's one new person for you versus what you're doing now with your account completely. I mean, on a level of like, you don't need me. The person that you're handling is this, they're doing amazing, to total shit show. It was total shit show. I'm like, you should, right now I could say, let me save you $35,000 and you owe me $5,000 for it. Would you, in there? Okay. Yes. Okay. Turn off your account. That'll be $5,000 essentially. I mean, and again, you get so busy being a lawyer and scaling your law firm that when you're wearing all the hats, you're missing so many of the blind spots that we could solve for you. You know, $10 an hour task versus $1,000 an hour task, but you don't know what you can't see.
I think that's one of the biggest mental blocks that I see from zero to firms trying to hit that $1 million mark. 70 some percent of law firms will never make it to that $1 million mark because of that perspective shift that never happens. The perspective shift that says it's not that you're spending $5,000 that's just going out the door every month. What it is, you are investing $5,000 to get this much of your time back to generate $30,000 more per month. Instead of viewing things as an expense, you have to understand what is an investment and how to ensure an ROI on those investments. And the second thing is that letting go factor. So many law firms will never truly get out of the solo status because they are afraid to let go. They don't trust people, they don't want to hire people, and they don't allow themselves to delegate. You are one person with 40 hours a week. The only way you will ever scale is if you are able to delegate.
Yeah. So I have the story that how I got into digital marketing. I was in sales for the bulk of my career, mostly like medical sales. I did early on. Chicago was my number one territory. So I was out in your neck of the woods. Man, that was a shock. I grew up in Texas, and the first time I went to Chicago, it was like November. And then getting outside, I was like, it feels like you just jumped into a frozen pond naked.
Your
Like
eyeballs
that's
froze over, didn't they? Like they
Um,
gloss with ice.
yeah. So what thrust me into digital marketing though was I had launched an app, and long story short, lost about anywhere from 30 to 50,000. I didn't really calculate it because it was a painful number. But what I learned from that, number one, thrust me into digital marketing. But number two, it taught me, yeah, that hurt. That lesson was painful. And I could have avoided that had I been investing in coaching and someone to guide me. However, it didn't sink me. So you have to be able to take some risks. There's two books if you're looking to scale your mindset that I would highly recommend. One of them I've read 3 times now. I read every January, which is 10X is Easier Than 2X by Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy. It will completely blow your mind. One of the examples that he gives in there talking about numbers is he gives an example of a plane that was going from New Zealand to, I don't know, somewhere in the Arctics or something on a tour that went horribly wrong. They were off their destination to refuel by a few degrees, and it ended up the plane hit a mountain and killed 398 people. So the story of that in business is you could be off by 3 degrees and completely miss all of your goals. But you don't know that if you don't know your numbers. And then the second one, to your point that you just made, is Buy Your Time Back by Dan Martell. Amazing book by a multimillionaire serial entrepreneur who literally gives you the blueprint on how to offload all of these tasks that are keeping you small, that are keeping you stuck, that are keeping you in the mindset of I'm the only one that can do this, with example after example of him coaching people that bought their time back by hiring the right people and exponentially grew the next year. So those are 2 books, 10X is Easier Than 2X and Buy Your Time Back, that multimillionaires are going to tell you exactly what we just said, which is you have to know your numbers and you have to know when it's time to offload things that are $10 an hour tasks so that you can focus on the $1,000 an hour task of being a lawyer and scaling your firm.
Yeah, I agree. One of the books that I love is The E-Myth on that,
Oh,
on the mindset of delegating and just letting go and what it means to be the technician versus the manager versus the entrepreneur. And the thing is, when you finally get to the place to where you learn to delegate and you become really good at it, it is so liberating. I just hired my first executive virtual assistant last year, and it has changed my life. Not having to manage my email inbox ever is amazing. Not having to manage my calendar. Like Like it's so much mental space that I get back to focus on way more important things in life. I even had her when my daughter's soccer season was active. She would manage all the soccer emails and put everything in my calendar. All I had to do was keep an eye on my calendar and show up to whatever was in there. Like it was the thing is, as business owners, as first of all, as humans, it has like science has discovered that we can only make a limited amount of meaningful decisions in a day. As business owners, and especially because most of us have families, we have to be so wise with what we allow to have our decision-making power. And it is not something that a $10 an hour position could do.
Yeah. The buy your time back, he talks about or I'm sorry, 10x is easier than 2x. Actually, both of them do in different verbiage, but 10x is easier than 2x. He said there's 20% activity that will move the needle. That's your zone of excellence. That's where you're going to make the most money. That's where you're going to have the most fun. And then there's 80%, and this is where most of us spend our time. And I actually have a calendar reminder at the end of every month to do a time audit. What did I do with my month this month? How much of it was spent in the 80% task oriented things, emails, follow-ups, calendars, whatever. And then how much of it was spent in the 20% that's going to scale my business. So that's why I reread that book 3 times. And every single time I find myself kicking myself, getting back stuck in the comfort zone of the 80%, just to-do list, tasks, and not in my creative zone of excellence where I can scale my firm. So
it's a rinse and repeat project. Another one of my favorite books is Traction by Gino Wickman. And one of the things that I absolutely love in there is that he talks about how long motivation lasts. And this is why he strategically suggests quarterly rocks, looking at your rocks, which are basically your goals or your milestones. But the important piece is quarterly. Every 3 months, we need those reminders. We need to, what is it? Tony Robbins said that motivation is like a bath. You can't just get motivated and expect it to last. We have to stay on top of ourselves with things like that too. Just because you enforce something once or learn something once doesn't mean that you're not going to have to go back on a regular basis and continue to hold yourself accountable to that method.
yeah, I love Traction. I think he actually said only have 3 rocks, if I remember correctly. And so 3 months, 3 goals, 3 big ones, and that's it, because our brains can't hold more than that. And then we're just distracted and we're overwhelmed and we go back to our comfort zone, our 80% comfort zone. And there comes the vicious loop that we get stuck in.
Yeah, it's human nature. And as a business owner, you have to reject a lot of human nature. You have to live outside of the box, not in that familiar, comfortable part of the box.
Yeah. And that's what they don't teach you in law school. They teach you how to be a lawyer, but more as an employee.
Yeah.
And to be a lawyer that owns a firm, it's going to take you're playing a different game and you have to learn the rules of the game. You're not playing Monopoly anymore. You're playing chess.
Yeah.
So, the ones that learn that is not the same game and how to level up are the ones that are going to win. So Chelsea, you've got a new course coming up that you're launching. I want to talk about that because it's going to be for the ones that are the 0 to $1 million to help them strategize getting to hire someone like you, right? And they can hire someone like you right out of the gate. If that's a priority, the crazy thing about humans is we will make it happen. We may have to sacrifice a little bit in another area, but somebody said, show me your bank account and I'll show you what's important to you.
Your bank account and your calendar. Yep.
If driving the bougie car and having the bougie office and the bougie house is important, well, then you probably won't be able to afford it under $1 million, hiring people. So anyways, tell us about your course and what that entails.
Yeah. So, we've had an outsourced fractional CFO offering for a while now. And I got really fed up with talking to these law firm owners who just couldn't afford it yet. And I'm like, oh, they could have so much value if they just had a few of these nuggets in the program. But I understand. And I feel like I'd be a hypocrite if I tried to sell them a program they couldn't afford. I'm the money person, for crying out loud. I can't do that. So I got fed up and I was like, you know what? I'm going to make a solution that is affordable and it gives them just the nuggets that they need to break that $1 million a year cap in revenue so that they can afford a true fractional CFO. And so that is what I'm doing. And just to clarify, look, I have been on the phone with law firms making $7 million a year. And the reason they called is because after one bad month, they had to skip their paycheck and take out a loan to cover payroll. So in some cases, it's easy for a law firm to even make millions of dollars and still keep none of it. And so what this program is designed to do do is to help you, first of all, keep more of what you are already making. Like we talked about earlier, start picking up all that money that you're leaving on the table and give you the most important things that are going to drive you to $1 million so that you can hire a fractional CFO. And I'm doing something really fun for the first round. So I've created the course already. But what I want to do, because before I launch it evergreen style, I want to put it through actual law firms. And so what I'm going to do for I'm really excited about it, is we're going to do a beta group program. So I'm only taking 7 law firm owners. So I don't know if by the time this comes out, if any of those seats will be available. So like go to the website now and see. I'm only planning on doing one, but we're going to go through it in a group format. You get me one-on-one as much as possible, because what that's going to do is really help me make sure that this course is going to create results for every law firm that gets it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And when you and I talked offline before we had the podcast, I thought I need to do that for marketing, because I talked to so many people who maybe can't afford Google Ads yet, but they can still start somewhere, and they need a blueprint of like, okay, if I'm on a shoestring budget, where do I start? And then I have just a list. Are you doing this? Are you doing this? Are you doing this? Are you doing this? Because if you're doing all that, you should be able to afford me. So that tells me you're not. So I need to back up one step and do something like this for my clients too, because I talk to a lot of the same pain points. They need it desperately. They're drowning, but they can't afford it yet. And I will turn away people if I say it. Like, I will tell them what their Google Ads budget needs to be for 4 months minimum. Like you said, it's not overnight. And if they can't afford it, I'm like, if they're like, I can afford the first 2 months, not ready yet. I am not going to be the person. I don't want to be responsible for that in your business. And so you come back to me when you have 4 months that you can afford it, and you know you can afford it, then we need to start. And that's that. But before that, there are a million other things you could be doing that you're probably not, that would generate huge ROI for your firm.
Yeah. I mean, I call my podcast It's Always and Never About the Money, because it's so true. It's not all about the money in what I do. I'm not going to recommend a service that is truly will put a law firm in a cash crunch. At the same time, I love helping law firms, and I know exactly what they need. But just like I preach to people, I practice what I preach. I have standards. I have to master the art of saying no to more and more and more and more. And so the only way that I'm going to give my expertise to this group of law firm owners is by way of an online evergreen course. And it gives them exactly what they need. No fluff. It's affordable for them. I don't spend my time doing it for less than I know I'm worth. It's a win-win.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to have all of Chelsea's contact information linked to the website where you can sign up, everything in the description below. I hope that you guys have gotten a lot of value out of this conversation. I know I have, and I'm super excited to see you guys go sign up for Chelsea's course and get your finances in order so that you can scale. I've got a lot of other interviews on this podcast that help with other experts in their field that will help you grow your firm smarter, not harder. So go check those out before you leave, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.